Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon, very good day to all of you. I hope all of you are doing very well. So today's topic is on aerospace industry reports. So basically we are going to look at the current report produced by several agencies. Okay, it is an international agencies, and we would like to look into the current situation of the aerospace industry all over the world. There are three reports that I'm going to discuss with you today. The first one was taken from Deloitte, a consultant company. Okay, the title is Aerospace and Defense Industry Outlook, but mainly we are going to focus on the outcome from the aerospace section industry outlook. All right. In terms of the commercial aerospace industry, if you look at the report provided by Deloitte, they provide an overview in terms of the background of the commercial aerospace industry, where we are already know there is a impact, huge impact of pandemic COVID-19 situation all over the world, right? So they highlighted that there is a slow recovery in passenger travel that may affect aircraft deliveries and industry revenues. It is not just the economy. It is focusing on, because due to the fact that passengers are travelers are still having this hindrance. They have a stigma saying that, oh, traveling is still not safe for especially when you talk about going for tourism. If you are talking about businesses, we can see nowadays people have already started to move here and there, but not that many compared to previous situation before COVID-19. So an effective vaccine against COVID-19 could result in short-term growth in passenger traffic. So we already seen many countries all over the world has already implemented vaccination to their population. Especially for Malaysia, we are among the highest vaccinated population. Okay, we have more than 96% population of Malaysia, including foreign workers, including those who are here without proper permit, for example, they are also being vaccinated, right? So when this happen, there are already we can already see there are growth in passenger traffic, but still very slow. It is driven by pent-up demand. So as I said, it is normally being driven by countries opening their border. Hopefully Malaysia will open the international border by January or February next year. However, this is unlikely to offset the ongoing damage to lucrative business travel, right? Because the pandemic situation, if you're talking about business travel, they travel using their business jet, it is probably not going to be affected at all. So maybe the industry themselves, the aviation industry, will take 2 to 3 years to recover, right? Not at the end of 2021, probably 2022, you are going to see very slow recovery, and eventually 2023 and 2024, hopefully that the industry will come back. Okay. And we can also see that virtual meetings are expected to continue to substitute in-person meetings for a prolonged period. Maybe even with the COVID-19 situation getting better, but more virtual meetings will take place because we are already get used to it. If we look at the overview highlighted by Deloitte, the global aerospace and defense, denoted by A&D industry revenue, is expected to begin to recover in 2021, Okay, after a difficult year in 2020, of course, if we look at 2020, we are being caught by surprise, where some countries, some major companies, they don't expect the COVID-19 situation is going to be this long. It's going to be just very short. But this recovery will likely be uneven across the two key sectors, namely commercial aerospace as well as the defense industry. Because most of the time, when we talk about aerospace and defense, it is tied together. All right. So the commercial aerospace sector has been significantly affected, okay, by COVID-19 pandemic. It is no doubt with that, which has led to a dramatic reduction in passenger traffic, right? In turn, affecting aircraft demand, right? Because no lack of passenger traveling, many airlines suffers a lot where they have to do cancellation of their aircraft that being ordered to major players, and that also there is a chain reaction in terms of the manufacturing sector, the system integration sector, and so many other subsector in aerospace. So as a result, the commercial aerospace sector is expected to recover slowly as travel demand is not as expected to return to pre-COVID-19 levels before 2024. Right? This is a projection by Deloitte. Okay, and we can see here also the defense sector is expected to remain stable because countries still have to maintain the military assets. So it is not affected by passenger traveling, as most countries have not significantly reduced defense budgets and remain committed to sustaining their military capabilities. Right? So, however, given the disruption in the complex global supply chain, because bear in mind that many major suppliers to aerospace, commercial aerospace industry, also a major player in the defense industry. The aerospace and defense industry should focus on transforming supply chains into more resilient and dynamic networks. Why Deloitte say this? Because we can see that lower aircraft demand and restrictions on the movement of people, the travelers, and goods due to the pandemic led to a breakdown of many essential aerospace and defense supply chains in 2020 because they are being caught without any plan how to mitigate, how to resolve the issues, because the supply chain being affected due to the cancellation, and there's so many other factors. And this has resulted in an impact on smaller suppliers, because if you are talking about big players, as I highlighted earlier, they involve in commercial aerospace as well as defense. However, for smaller suppliers, where normally this kind of players, industry players, they are focusing on one sector only. For example, like if you are supplying aerospace, commercial parts, you are not going to do for the defense. This is we are talking about smaller suppliers, especially those with heavy exposure to the commercial aerospace industry and the aftermarket business. As most aerospace and defense suppliers are highly specialized with unique expertise and complex equipment, they could continue to struggle to make quick changes because they have already the assets where they normally can adapt and also transform their business nature. Right? As a summary from Deloitte, we are not going to look at all aspects, but if you look into the documentation that I have already provided earlier in Putra Blast, you will can summarize. We can summarize the report of the aerospace industry outlook for 2021 as follows. The first one, industry expected to focus on restructuring, meaning that those companies that need to survive, they want to make sure that they will survive. They have to do restructuring. They have to do cost reduction. And they also have to have supply chain transformation in 2021. They have to act now. They cannot wait until the pandemic recover. Okay, While the aerospace and defense industry, particularly commercial aerospace, is expected to face near-term challenges, okay, the defense sector is expected to remain stable. So what does this mean is that the aerospace players, no matter small or big, they have to somehow transform themselves. They have to somehow move into other sector. Instead of just focusing on commercial aerospace, probably it's about time for them to try or to venture into defense or other sectors, right? And we can also conclude that in 2021, the commercial aerospace manufacturers are likely to focus on restructuring and cost reduction to position themselves for profitable growth in the long term. Okay, and the industry is also likely to take advantage of the pandemic and drop in demand to transform supply chains, because this is like a major overhaul. The industry players cannot do the same thing over and over again, and pandemic situation like this that affected everybody in the world, all industry in any sectors, and this is about to reset. You have to it's about time to resetting the landscape, right? Only the company that, or the businesses that transform and can adapt with the new situation, they will survive. Also, aerospace and defense companies could pursue maybe mechanical and automotive opportunities to build scale and capture greater value. Okay, more people moving by cars compared to by aeroplane nowadays. So long-term growth prospects for the aerospace and defense industry will remain strong. We are not saying that aerospace industry is dying, but it's basically transforming into a new landscape of industry in the near future. And the final point here is that the space sector and technological developments such as advanced air mobility, hypersonics movement, electric propulsions, and hydrogen-powered aircraft are likely to drive future growth for the industry. So this is what being highlighted in the Deloitte report 2021 for aerospace industry. So I would like you to look into the report later on, because eventually we are going to use all of this input in terms of doing analyzing and analysis on the way forward for aerospace industry, especially for Malaysian aerospace industry to survive in the near future. The second report is taken from PWC, PricewaterhouseCoopers Company. Right, this is the report called Global Aerospace and Defense. It is an annual industry performance outlook. Okay, so this is the report is also available in Putra Plus, the complete report, so you can refer to it. But I would like to highlight a few points from the report. If we look here, aerospace and defense performance 2020, in PwC they provided a glance or a summary of the A&D, aerospace defense performance in 2020, and they will also projected providing projection for 2021 onwards. It's stated in the report, the aerospace and defense industry reported $697 billion of revenue. Okay, it is already showing a trend which is slightly lower than 2019. Okay, 8% lower, and $25 billion of operating profit. Okay, just now is revenue, and then about the operating profit, which also decreased 61% compared to 2019 due to COVID-19. Okay, so basically what PwC company are reporting, basically it is looking at all major players of aerospace. They look at their annual report and they analyze, this kind of company, they analyze the aerospace and defense performance for major companies as well as the major suppliers for aerospace. Okay, and this is due to the fact because of the revenue passenger kilometers called RPK plummeted by 66% compared to 2019. So this is a data for 2020, and we can also see heavy losses for major companies such as Boeing, Airbus, Spirit Aerosystem, and their suppliers. If we look at Boeing, the Boeing's performance weighed heavily on industry results. So with operating profit down nearly 11 billion, okay, making up more than a quarter of the total industry decline because of the combined effect of COVID-19. The grounding of 737 MAX, I think all of you should know already what happened to the incident about 737 MAX and charges on their 777X and defense program. Okay, so it's not just COVID-19, it also affected by other factors. This is about Boeing. And then with regard to Airbus, they reported 2.1 billion profit decline. They are still making money. They are still making profit, but the profit decreases with revenue down 22 billion, and Spirit Aerosystem, the major aerostructure manufacturer, revenue plunged by 57%. Okay, why 57%? Because of many airlines such as AirAsia, Tiger Air, and so many other airlines cancelling their order. Alright? So the four largest tier 1 suppliers to commercial manufacturers such as Raytheon Technologies, GE Aviation, Rolls-Royce, and Safran reported an aggregate operating profit loss of 1.4 billion for a decline of $16.3 billion. So why they show these numbers? Because it is heavily impacted the aerospace industry. So these 7 companies, Boeing, Airbus, Spirit Aerosystem, Raytheon Technology, GE Aviation, Rolls-Royce, and Safran, okay, represented more than 3/4 of the overall industry profit decline, because these are the major players. L3Harris Technologies reported revenue growth of 42% in a different scenario, largely due to the first full year of merger of Harris and L3. So SAIC moved up the revenue ranking by 12 spot, mainly as a result of its acquisition of Agility. So because some company they merge, some company they sell their stakes and so on, then it provide more revenue in the particular year. But majority of the main players for aerospace and defense being affected badly in 2020. Okay, you can see here just a snapshot of the data here. The aerospace and defense industry reported $697 billion of revenue, which is less 8% from 2019. Okay, and if we look at the other aspect, Airbus delivered 566 aircraft in 2020. Okay, it is a drop of 34% from 2019, which breaking its 17 years of consecutive record production. So you can imagine, Airbus has already, when people order an aircraft, for example, like maybe one of you would like to order an aircraft, it is not just like going to giant supermarket or just order it online in Shopee where you want a aircraft or A320 aircraft, or 737 MAX aircraft. Just like that, it will take because it has backlog. If you order today, or the aircraft will only arrive maybe 2 years after, if you are lucky. And most of the time you have to pay upfront certain percentage. Okay, compared to when you want to buy a car, you want to buy a good Mercedes AMG car, for example, C200 AMG car, for example. So you can either just buy whatever stock that they have. If you want to make an order, maybe it will only take 3 to 4 months for customization, right? But aerospace industry is different. So once you make an order, you will be penalized if you cancel order. And there's some big portion of money have to be invested by the aircraft manufacturer. Compared to Boeing, Boeing delivered 157 aircraft in 2020 compared to Airbus, a 57% decline from 2019, not because of just COVID-19, it is also because of the 737 MAX grounding. So there's another big issue there. So big companies like Boeing survive. If it is a smaller company, probably is already bankrupt and it already closed down. All right. We can also already see here 737 MAX completely recertification is already back on track now by end of 2020, and it's already returning to service globally. But imagine the social impact of 737 MAX. Why is it not coming back to the service immediately? Because it's the social impact has already affected the trust and the confidence of the clients when they want to buy or to continue reorder for 737 MAX. So some of the clients, they move to Airbus or other type of aircraft. And it's also reported Airbus 268 net orders in 2020. Okay, this is a new order. Just now is a delivering of aircraft, which is a 65% decline from 2019. And Boeing also reported 471 fewer net orders, following 87 fewer net order in 2019, which was the first negative order rate in at least 3 decades for Boeing. It's a major downfall for a big company such as Boeing. As a result, industry backlog declined by 926 units with a total of $245 billion. However, industry backlog remains healthy at more than 600 billion and nearly 12,000 units. So that's what happened. Even though they have lack of delivery of new aircraft, lack of reduction of net orders for new aircraft, but the backlog, those airlines that have already ordered to Airbus and Boeing, we already have more than 600 billion worth of contract, nearly 12,000 units. So, which is more than 7 years worth of production for Boeing as well as Airbus. So even though they do not have any more order, for example, they use a worst case scenario, no more order 2022 onwards, Airbus and Boeing still can do the manufacturing, can still continue. Probably they have to figure out the next strategy. They cannot just rely on the existing orders. When the 7 years has passed, if they have no new orders, most likely Airbus and Boeing will just shut down and close down. Maybe other players will come in to replace them. All right, this is already being highlighted, just a snapshot of revenue passenger kilometers, RPK. When you talk about the term that impacted the aerospace industry is about revenue passenger kilometer, RPK, right? Which reduce, is a reduction of 66%, right? Because I myself didn't travel in 2021, in 2020, but normally I travel to 4 or 5 countries in a year. But now we just have online conferences. Just recently, last month, I presented at Washington in the US, and then few months ago presented in Chennai, India, in Hungary, in Budapest. So if it is not because of COVID-19, most likely I will already have travel in other places compared to just sitting in front of the computer giving keynotes and seminars. All right, if you look here, a comparison between 2008 and 2019, for 2020, the International Air Transport Association IATA reported a 66% drop in RPK, snapping consecutive annual records since 2008 until 2008-2009 financial crisis. In 2008-2009, we already have a financial crisis. Similarly, with 1998-1999 situation. So every 10 years, normally we have a financial crisis for every 10 years. And global airlines reported losses of 370 billion. So in passenger load factors were 65% for the full year after achieving a record in 2019, where 2019 we have like a peak of traveling. People travel all over the world for businesses, for tourism and other activities. And we can also see that there is a drop of air cargo market by 11% during the year. But load factor improved as capacity dropped at a steeper rate. In PWC report, it is much more data oriented, where they provide a lot of previous data, for example, like revenue passenger miles 2017, 2018, 2019 and 2020. Imagine it's always positive. It is declining until 2020 hits, COVID-19 hits the world at the end of 2019, right? And started to see the effect in 2020, minus 65.9%, which is huge, compared to cargo freight ton per miles from 9%, 3.5%, minus 3.3%, and minus 10.6%. All right. If you look here, PwC reported that IATA is forecasting about a 50% improvement in the revenue passenger kilometers for 2021, but it is forecasted. We can only know the results, the true value in the report 2022, which would hit only half of 2019 levels. And Boeing has more than 407 737 MAX aircraft in inventory to deliver. Okay, they have it already made. It's already, so they just have to stall the production, and has stated plans to ramp up production of that model to 31 aircraft per month by 2022. Right? So they are hoping that the situation will turn around and they can produce more aircraft by 2022. Airbus plans to increase production of A320s to 45 per month by the end of the year. 2021 looks to be a year of substantial improvement. This is not just because of COVID-19. This is also resulted by the movement of the client from Boeing to Airbus. So it is not expected to full recovery until the end of 2023. In summary, from the PwC report, commercial aviation has become a critical part of global infrastructure, right? And COVID-19 has put the industry into crisis, and a full recovery is not expected until the end of 2023. Okay. Furthermore, many airlines will likely be hampered by large amounts of debt that could dominate their capital allocation strategy. If you recently heard about the news about AirAsia, they decided that they cannot pay the passengers that already bought tickets to fly, and then they cannot. They said it will be just forfeited, and this is the issues has been brought up to MEFCOM, this Malaysian Aviation Commission, to ensure the legal aspect can be taken to AirAsia, because they cannot just say that the money is gone. They don't have the money to pay back all the passengers. Maybe some of you also affected by the action of AirAsia. We'll see what happened legally to AirAsia. It is also being highlighted here. In the past 2 decades, aviation has become increasingly inelastic, as witnessed by its resiliency during the last recession and subsequent recovery. So every recession happen every 10 years. So the some airlines or aerospace players being affected, but not as severe as this situation in COVID-19 situation. The globalization and increases in the global middle class have spurred demand, even as there is a trend toward moderating or even reversing globalization as supply chains are moved closer to their end markets. If you see carefully what we have shared in the previous lecture, saying that um, many major players have their footprint in other regions. For example, like Rolls-Royce have their company or their parts being manufactured in by UMW in Serenda. Airbus have their subsidiary in Malaysia. Boeing have their contracts given to ACM in Bukit Kayu Hitam as well as in CTRM Malacca. So it is much closer to the clients where the markets place are. So the long-term forecast for commercial aerospace nevertheless appears positive. We still have a trust that the aerospace industry will come back. This is the mode of transportation. You cannot just ride a bicycle to go to the UK. You have to use to be fast. You have to, maybe one day we have hypersonic transportation, not just supersonic. And just consider, for example, that 82% of the global population has yet to set foot in airplane, right? So only about 18% currently have already experienced traveling using aircraft. Okay, there are many more people. The population of the world has not yet experienced this. And with the global middle class projected to grow, this what we call it as M40, the middle income workers, from 25% to 60% by 2030, there is an enormous untapped segment of new customers. So this is very promising. What will happen in the future? People will move faster. People will travel more because of the advancement of the aerospace industry. And the last slide for PWC report is that, furthermore, the restructuring actions begun by commercial aerospace companies in 2020. So many is also being reported here, compared similarly with what being reported by Deloitte, where combined with digital transformation, the IR 4.0 effect, as well as process improvement, will improve competitiveness for many years and position the industry for a profitability boom as end markets recover. Okay. It is coming from McKinsey Company. Maybe some of you have already heard about McKinsey Company. The sky is the limit, right? The name of the report, the title of the report. They talk about perspective on emerging European commercial aircraft value chain recovery and beyond. So bear in mind, compared to Deloitte and PwC just now, McKinsey report is focusing on the European. The one that I shared with you and going to be presented today is for the European market. Okay, in terms of the overview, while commercial aerospace was severely hit by a historic drop in air traffic during COVID-19, we are now seeing signs of demand recovery, even though it is very slow. So we can see that borders open and travel restriction relax in most of Europe and other parts of the world. Airlines are getting closer to their pre-pandemic flight schedules. So if you imagine, maybe before pandemic situation happened, the flight schedule is 100%, and then pandemic situation comes in, it already reduced to only 30 to 40% flight schedules, and now we are seeing more and more aircraft traveling, because people start to travel, right? The big questions: what are the air travel trends shaping the industry? What will the changes in air passenger behavior, right? Because it is not the same anymore. You have to do some COVID-19 tests before you board the aircraft. You have to wear masks during the duration of the flight, and so on. So it's not, let's say you have a flight schedule at 10 a.m. in the morning. You have to come as early as 4 to 5 hours before the time that you have to travel. So sometimes this is quite annoying, and this is quite tiring to travel during these days. So what are the near-term and long-term business risks and opportunities for individual industry players? Okay, probably it is being answered in this particular report. At the same time, in terms of big question, history has shown that following an economic crisis, as being highlighted earlier, every 10 years there is an economic crisis, aircraft construction eventually returns to its pre-crisis way. So it will bounce back like a ball. If you bounce a ball, it will come back to you if you have the right kinetic energy. In terms of the way it operates and the sales figures. Given that the current economic crisis was precipitated by a public health crisis, might we see changes to the industry that persist long into the future? So these might open questions reveal that intense uncertainty associated with both what aircraft demand patterns will look like as COVID-19 restriction relax, and which trends OEMs, suppliers, and other companies in the industry's value chain should be aware of to navigate the industry recovery and the future landscape. There are 5 key insights being reported by McKinsey report on the commercial aerospace industry and its post-COVID-19 prospects. The first one, what being reported here is that slow growth. It will be likely be another 2 years before airline passenger revenues creeps past pre-pandemic levels. So it is taking off, but it is slowly growing. All right, it's not just a steep changes from nobody flying to maybe 100% people flying. No, it is going to be a slow growth. Maybe it take 2 years to 3 years, maybe beyond 5 years. Okay. The second point here is that supply chain challenges, because aerospace executives expect increased vertical integration of the supply chain and see the related matters of materials and staff availability as challenges to the industry ability to meet the growing demand. Because as you can see here, what happened when less people travel? It will affect the cancellation. Airlines will cancel orders. Aircraft manufacturer, aerospace industry players, the supply chain will have to reduce manpower. They need less engineers. They need less executive. They need less technical people, right? And these kind of people, they cannot just wait. They have to find other means to live. They have to maybe try to find jobs elsewhere, becoming a bus driver or lorry driver compared to becoming a pilot. Okay, and as an engineer, maybe they can go into other engineering sectors if their skills are required. It's going to be very challenging. The third point here, highlighted by McKinsey, is that overhauls in business and design, meaning that it's not doing the same business like before. So in the interest of economic viability, both business models and the aircraft themselves will take on a new shape in order to accommodate shift in customer demand, right? So a transformation of business, not like doing business like before, right? it won't survive. And number 4, new entrants. There will be more new players coming in, because remember, one shop or one business closed down doesn't mean that another business cannot grow. Maybe there are, instead of just one shop closed, maybe there are few shops will emerge. So players from outside of the traditional commercial aerospace sector can be expected to disrupt the market in areas such as urban air mobility, because more and more new, you can see that maybe the industry of drone industry will come in. There's a more new aircraft design, including vertical takeoff and landing. VTOL is maybe will come into the picture for commercialization. And finally, focus on sustainability. There is an observable increase in the industry focus on sustainability as an opportunity, and sustainable aviation fuel is widely seen as the likely dominant solution until 2040, right? Followed by hydrogen for non-wide body application. So more advanced technology will be developed, and it will be focusing on sustainability. Maybe using more natural available sources, like biofuel, or maybe electric propulsion, and so many other aspect of sustainability. If we look here, a McKinsey Company report global air traffic plummeted in 2020 from 8.9 trillion passenger revenue passenger kilometer to 2.9 trillion. So 6 trillion revenue loss, right? So from actual here, and it's dropped until there, 68% drop, and now is this is a projection, project optimistic case. It come back before by 2022, and maybe pre-seismic case, maybe it will be around 8 trillion revenue. This is trillion, is not billion at all. Okay, it's being discussed here, right? Orders, deliveries, and production rates have all taken a hit, and the whole ecosystem of aerospace industry, which caused a historic slowdown in air travel. And global commercial aircraft deliveries also dropped in 2020 by 46%. And putting this into perspective, it has been the sharpest annual decrease since the start of the record in 1960s, leading to the lowest level since 2005. If we look another chart given by McKinsey here, is that narrow body aircraft and regional aircraft are recovering much faster than the wide body aircraft. This is also being highlighted in my previous lecture. Okay, it's also already having a trend since 2015. So global 3-year comparison of narrow body available seat kilometer per month, and global 3-year comparison of wide body available seat per kilometer per month in terms of billion. So you can see here, you can see the solid blue line is more for narrow body aircraft compared to the wide body aircraft. Signs of recovery with the prospect of reaching and exceeding pre-COVID-19 figures by 2025. So this is being projected beyond 2025. So different consultant like Deloitte and PWC reported differently, but McKinsey, they go beyond there, where July 2021 available seats kilometer figures for narrow body aircraft, we already discussed this just now. If we look here, this divide is also supported when taking a deeper look at different types of flows. Notably for intra-regional flight, we expect close to full recovery by 2022. Okay. intra-regional flight, meaning that is within Europe, just traveling from Turkey to Germany or from London to Barcelona, is just within Europe. It is going to recover by 2022. But for the rest of the region, meaning that from Europe to Southeast Asia, from Middle East to China to North America, South America, and so on, it will be much later, right? Okay, this is a intra-regional flow and inter-regional flow. So just they make a everything drops, and then how it recovers, whether it is going to be recovered earlier or later, right? So we can see here, I don't have to explain this one. We can already see the chart just now. So in May 2020, Airbus called its supplier to be prepared for a production increase of A320 family. Sorry, May 2021. Okay, so because they want to ramp up the production. Okay, based on this announcement, the current monthly production rate around 40 aircraft is expected to increase to 45, right? So you can imagine the production for A320 flaps, the flaps for A320 being produced by CTRM in Malacca. Okay, that's one of the supplier. CTRM is one of the major supplier of the wing flaps for A320. So instead of producing certain numbers per month, they have to increase in terms of their production rate. So it is affected the manufacturer of aerospace over the world. So because once the flaps being ready in CTRM Malacca, they send it to Spirit Aerosystem in Subang to be prepared for delivery to the Spirit Aerosystem in the UK, for example, or in the US, because the wing assembly is being done in the UK for Airbus. All right. Okay, let us move on. Okay, delivery of new aircraft are unlikely to reach pre-COVID-19 levels by 2024 or before 2024, meaning that you can imagine that it will take another 4 years before the full recovery. This is, we assume that there is no new variant of COVID-19. Let's say there is another variant of flu coming in, virus coming in by 2023, for example, instead of COVID-19 is COVID-23. So the graph will be different. Okay, productivity drivers. So we can see here aerospace and defense respondents. So McKinsey Company, they have I think a handful of companies that they send service in Europe, right, to provide response in terms of the how the productivities drivers. So for example, like digitization, artificial intelligence, automation, and technology enablement and analytics is one of the major drivers. So many companies agree that it is a major driver for aerospace and defense industry. Okay, AI is automotive industry. Okay, and then in terms of transformation in terms of operations, resilient and operational agility. Okay, also a factor for productivity, for transformation of companies. People and organization, right? Maybe they need to find different a breed of people, specialists, to be hired. Okay, and environmental, social, and governance also factors. So these are the 5 main productivity drivers for a company to transform, for a company to prepare themselves in terms of becoming relevant in the aerospace industry in the near future. Among others is investment in digitization and automation. So even with the significance they place on digitization and automation as one of the major productivity drivers, the aerospace and defense company were just as likely at approximately 50% to reduce investment in this area during COVID-19 as other advanced industry companies. And they are no more likely than other advanced industry companies to increase investment in the near future. So however, as the survey asked respondents to report on and predict changes to their level of investment, it is still possible that aerospace and defense companies did and will make larger investments. So more investment has to be made by the aerospace companies. I think when they do the survey for European companies, it's also affected other regions, maybe in Malaysia, Southeast Asia region, in the Middle East region, in Mexico, and other places. So the same issues will also happen. In terms of investment and in resilience and agility, resilience and agility is a productivity driver which receive high value from aerospace and defense companies. And investment in this driver, resilience and agility, for more than 80% of companies between 2018 and 2019. However, almost half of the aerospace and defense affiliated respondents reported decrease in their company investment in this area. Okay, it is important, but they show less lack of interest there. COVID-19 forced many aerospace and defense companies to underinvest in one of their priority areas. But a stronger financial picture may be allowing them to make up ground loss over the last year. Looking ahead, barely more than 1 in 10 aerospace and defense companies say that they will reduce investment in this area. And about 2/3 are expecting to increase investment. Still, the aerospace and defense companies are little less likely than their other advanced industry peers to increase investment in resilience and agility. Right? In summary, so there are a lot of other arguments provided in the McKinsey report, but I just want to summarize what being highlighted for aerospace and defense industry over here is that our operation, the aerospace industry operation and preceding supply chain, ready to deliver the expected rate increases in the single aisle market? Okay. Do we have resilient and agile operation in place if another pandemic situation comes in? All right, the industry has to be ready. Did we sufficiently streamline our fixed cost base in the last 18 months? If not, which additional opportunities should be addressed? And then, how can we best prepare for OEM's future products and programs? How can we best position our organization for a shift in the product portfolio? Because it's going to be very competitive. Maybe other players will take their position in the near future. And then the fourth point here is that where do we need to invest to increase our level of competitiveness and leverage digital and automation? Okay, IR 4.0 related opportunities. Apart from volume growth, what will our key drivers of increased productivity be? And then, what is our strategy on key trends such as future urban air mobility, UAM, and increased transparency of CO2 emissions in the supply chain? So how major players control their suppliers to follow and to abide with the CO2 emissions, the carbon footprint, as well as how can we effectively address newly emerging markets and competitors. And finally, the last conclusion for today's presentation is that what are our opportunities for M&A along the value chain, and what sources of funding should we be looking for to prepare for the next wave of growth. So with that, I think that's all for today.